And we are almost at 2 after the hour here. So since this is a quick hit webinar, let's get underway and get going. Welcome to our latest installment of the Quick Hit series, backed by popular demand from you, our wonderful and extraordinary customers. As a reminder, these are quick 15-minute digestible webinars. I don't always keep it to 15 minutes, but I'll try my best today. We're going to highlight a current hiring trend. My name is Danny Whelan. I'm a product manager here at Hirology. And today, normally we focus on a different stat from our recent survey for more than 6,000 different job applicants. Today, we are going to focus on getting into the minds of those folks and offer advice on what you can do to meet their expectations based on what we've learned from our discussions with them. So with that, we'll dig in. So to start, this week's stats are all about applicant sourcing and tips and tricks for driving your return on investment from job boards. To start, 47% of job seekers go to general job boards when seeking a new job, and that is from that applicant research that we've done. Indeed, ZipRecruiter, a couple of the big ones, by far the top choice from a lot of the folks that we talked to. So for the majority of what we're going to talk about for the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to dig into how most of the how you can get the most out of those sites, since a lot of the folks are starting their job searches right there with Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and some of the other players in that market. While that job search a lot of the times does start on those job boards, one thing I will immediately caveat that with is it's worth noting that we ask respondents where they found their current job. And while that 47% number is a large chunk, 35% had some other sources like referrals as the answer as well. So it's just something to consider. While we're going to focus a lot on job boards, having a diverse set of different ways that you're getting in touch with job seekers and they're finding you. Those are important things to keep in mind and stuff that we're going to kind of highlight along with some of the job board best practices that we think about. So the 4 things we'll cover in getting the most out of your job board investment today. 1, strong search engine optimization. We'll give you some tips on how you can improve that. Organic versus paid, and the 7-day organic rule as we're titling it. Refreshing and reposting jobs. We know that for all of you customers out there, this is a hot topic, so we'll cover that a little bit as well. And then having a multi-channel sourcing strategy. So again, making sure that you're not putting all of those eggs in one basket, because we know job boards are a fantastic source, 47% as we just mentioned, but we know that especially as you get into more of the paid content, that spend can get pretty high. So we want to not just give you that as an option, but give you a lot of other opportunities to keep that spend manageable, but also get a high quality and good source of applicants going. So let's start with strong SEO on your job boards and why it matters. So, like many things on the internet today, job boards rely on algorithms like Google to help prioritize jobs organically. So just as a reminder for folks, organically, when we talk about that, this is the free, you can post on Indeed and ZipRecruiter for free. When we say organic, that effectively means free traffic. And as part of your Hirology app, just as part of our base service, we push your jobs out to those organic job boards unless you've opted not to do that. But as an example of kind of how those algorithms work, if someone searches housekeeper jobs in Chicago on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or Google, which does have a Google for Jobs component to it, the jobs algorithm will show that what it feels like is most relevant. So most relevant can mean a lot of different things. What does it mean in this particular case? It takes into account everything from job title, keywords throughout the copy, location for that user. For example, housekeeper job Chicago, it's not going to give you stuff in Florida. It's going to look in that particular geographic place. And structural things like word count, bullet points, things like that that are easy for it to understand and break out. So when we think about how to make your post stand out as something that's particularly relevant in those searches, there's a few different things we want to make sure we optimize. One is your job summary. So we always recommend that you have a short 1 to 2 sentence description of the job that uses the title as well as some relevant keywords to the responsibilities there. So it's a good way to get keywords in right away, because as it scrolls down, while it may find them in the job description, oftentimes the more that you have them, the placement of those being higher up is going to lead to that being a more relevant result for folks. So putting that in there right away helps someone search. And also when they are looking at that, they're going to see some of the stuff that's interesting to them straight away. Keep your job titles short. If you can, 1 to 3 words. Adding extra items like flexible schedule and the pay per hour, while that is helpful information at some point, it makes your job post look a little bit spammy. And we've seen that some of the boards and even Google can deprioritize that result based on including some of that in your job title. Speaking of keeping things short, but not too short, keeping the job description between 300 and 800 words. Most algorithms won't prioritize anything shorter than that. And anything longer is just going to be tough for a job seeker to read. We've all looked for jobs at some point, and we know that we're not necessarily going to read a war and peace about the job as much helpful information as there might be in there. And then finally, structuring the content into subheadings and bullet points for readability and scannability. Most algorithms are going to prioritize content that's easy for the reader to understand. So having those headers and bullets are super helpful for somebody as they're looking through that job to, see benefits information, salary, responsibilities, and be able to just scan that down. Makes it super easy for them to read, and is something that Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Google are going to prioritize. As an example of that, here is one of our job descriptions here. So you can see the blue square as an example of a summary that's great for SEO. It includes the title and a quick description before you get into really the length of the body. And what it didn't show up here, but I do want to share a specific example around Indeed. We know that they are the market leader and that they're super important for your jobs and getting those applicants. The way that they're now displaying jobs is really interesting, and I think really drives home how important subheadings and bullets are here. Before you get to the description now, the first thing a job seeker often sees on Indeed, whether you've put it there or not, they pull out the salary, pay type, which is how often you get a paycheck, whether it's full or part-time, the qualifications, as well as benefits. So if you have that information and you have it under a subheading and you have it bulleted out, Indeed actually goes through that job post, finds that information, and they display that at the top of that particular post before they even get to the full description. And then you can also see salary and location before you even jump into a job. So when you kind of see that little tile, when you're scrolling through, that information is going to be front and center for folks. So whether you feel comfortable in not sharing all of that, we know that when you do have a subheader and bullets around those specific areas, salary, pay, full part-time, qualifications, and benefits, on Indeed, and we're starting to see this on ZipRecruiter as well, those are going to show up and be the first things that some of those job seekers see before they get to any full description. So really, really important thing to keep in mind as you're writing those job descriptions and deciding what information to include. All of that on the 2 biggest players on the market are going to be the first things that job seekers see. So that's SEO. Let's jump into kind of your organic versus paid and what we're calling the 7-day rule here at Hierology. So what is the actual 7-day rule here? The majority of your organic applicants are normally going to show up in the first 7 days after you post. That's not to say that you won't get folks after that, but generally what we're seeing from the data across all of our jobs across markets is that first week is where you're going to get the lion's share of your applicants. After that, a large influx of applicants just coming from those organic, and again, organic is those free postings on the major job boards. You're going to see diminishing returns from there, and you won't see a large influx normally. So at that point, we have to start considering some other opportunities, including paid, if you want to see that influx of additional applicants. So what can we do to make sure that paid doesn't become a huge drain on your bank account, but also delivers good results? Metrics. So it's a double-edged sword because we know it's a great way to expand reach. Whenever you're putting money onto those job boards, you're getting higher placement. So potentially more applicants that are quality being able to see your post, but it's easy for that spend to mount up and not see great results sometimes. So when we think about how can we get this right and make sure that you're getting good bang for your buck, there's no secret solution to this that we had. If we did, we'd give it to all of you. It's dependent on business, industry, type of role, a number of different factors, but the key for us is tracking. So while we can't control the results, we can tell, hey, let's spend a little bit here, see how it does, and then change our approach. So tracking over time and then optimizing that spend based on what you're seeing is the best way for you to make sure that, hey, you're getting some of that additional reach and additional eyes on that job, but without just spending like crazy and then being a little bit unhappy later. So metrics that we focus on a lot of time are applicants per source, candidates per source. So applicants obviously is just the raw number of folks that apply to that job and are interested. Candidates is kind of that measure of quality that we look at. So when you move someone to candidate, that's an indication for you, for them, for us, that that's a quality person that you're interested in moving forward in the process. Hires per source, of course, that's what we're all looking for at the end of the day is, did ZipRecruiter deliver me a large bucket of folks that we actually brought into the workforce? And then overall ROI per source over a certain time period, like a month, to say, hey, I spent $300 on a post with ZipRecruiter. What did that give back in terms of applicants, candidates, hires? And is that something that I want to continue to spend with to help you kind of determine if that's where you want to put resources in the following month? So if you have a really high applicants per source ratio for one job board, for example, but a low hires per source for another, you may be tempted to put your money toward one that gives you more applicants, but just remember that quantity doesn't outweigh quality here. So if you are seeing, hey, I've got a number of applicants, but none of them are turning into anything, and I get a lower amount here, but they are actually becoming people that I bring into my company, that's something that you want to make sure you consider, because if we just go from kind of top of the funnel applicants, you may get a lot of bodies, but they may not be the right ones. So the ultimate goal is to hire. So make sure you're putting those resources where you're getting the actual hires and ultimately the real return on investment there. And I do see we have a Q&A question. I will jump into those here in about 5 minutes as soon as we get through the rest of the presentation. So any questions you want to pop into that Q&A portion or in the chat, feel free to do so now, and we'll cover all of those at the end. So how do you actually track some things in Hireology around that spend and that ROI? Our Insights tool. So in that top bar in your app, you're going to see the Insights page. If you click on that, you can see here a conversion by source. So when you'll see this in the overview, but then you can also click on the drop down. It'll say 30-day overview. You can also go to sourcing performance as a report. Check that out, and you can see your total applicants, how many of them are quality, which we measure by whether they're a candidate or not, and your total sources. And then you can see kind of almost a funnel here, conversion by source. So you can see how many applicants you received in a given time period, how many of them you moved to candidate, and how many of them completed an interview or were hired. So all the way through your process, however many intermediate steps there are, you can see through that which of those sources is giving you the best quality and the best bang for your buck as you move through. So if you're not using Insights today, highly recommend jumping into that tool and starting to measure how, as you, even organically or paid, how those different sources are performing to you and whether you want to put more effort, more spend into particular ones that are delivering for you. Now to one of the hot topics that we always hear from customers, refreshing and reposting jobs. This is a common practice for a lot of you today. So we want to just refresh everybody on our perspective. Sorry for the lame pun using refresh. So our advice here is to use the ability to refresh your job sparingly. It's not that it's not useful, but the big reason we recommend you don't do this too often or too soon is because after you post a job, a lot of the big boards, if they see a job continually reposted with all of the same information, they might flag that as spam and or just deprioritize it in their results because they think that it might just be somebody, you know, trying to game the system there. So the major boards will kind of look at that and not give you quite as good placement via that SEO algorithm that they're using. So just consider that, be a little bit careful with it. When we did dig into this year around, you know, when's the right time to do this? How often should you be doing this? We found that 45 to 60 days is just about right. That's generally the advice from the boards that we get is, hey, it's totally okay if you're still looking for applicants for that particular job. That's a great time to refresh. And our data shows that even if you did refresh it, generally that doesn't boost applicant flow significantly before then. So it's just something to keep in mind that even if you were really anxious to try to refresh that and get some additional flow, doing it before that 45 to 60 day period is going to have diminishing returns for you. So again, that's when we start thinking about, hey, should we dig in more into referrals? Should we look into some sponsorships on those larger boards that are going to pay dividends for us? That said, we know that this is a little bit of a cumbersome process today. So it is something we're working on to improve the process within the product, which there should be announcements a little bit in the future around what we're doing there, which will be exciting. And then last but not least, multi-channel sourcing strategy. We've talked about this earlier here in our presentation, but while the job boards are super important, and we know that there is a large number and percentage of job seekers starting their search there, it's important not to put everything in that one particular channel because there are folks pretty effectively using other ways of gathering applicants and places that job seekers are looking, and sometimes places where you can get pretty high quality folks that may not be the traditional job boards as well. So our key, the way that we think about it and that our advice to you is think of your recruiting strategy much like a marketing strategy. No matter what industry you're in, whether you're auto, home healthcare, franchise, whatever it is, your marketing team wouldn't ever use just one channel to get the word out about your business. And you shouldn't either from a recruitment standpoint. So we recommend a multi-channel approach and putting more of your time and resources toward the channels that drive the most ROI. So again, measuring, continuing to look at how all those different sources are delivering. So we feel like, just like at Hierology, that's a combination of some email, paid, social media, SEO, and content marketing, which kind of falls into our job boards there. Events, if you're someone that holds those are generally a great way to get folks, and referrals are a number of different ways that we use that we recommend that you use as well. So while Indeed does drive most hires for you, and that's awesome, we should prioritize some other sources as well, because there may be some really quality candidates that you're missing out on. So when we think about those other applicant sources to consider, vertical specific job boards are one of them. So we've got a couple of examples here, images of them: My CNA Jobs for our folks in the healthcare space, H Careers for our hotels folks, Karen Homes, another home healthcare vendor. So places where they're able to use resume databases, their own job boards, job ads to help gather more of those folks. Employee referral programs are an awesome way to get high quality candidates. If you know someone that's awesome that works at your company and they love the culture and what you're doing, they're going to speak highly of you to friends that they know who are also awesome. And you're going to get kind of a leg up, a faster process potentially around getting those referrals in, talking to them, vetting them. And we've seen that result in some pretty quality candidates for a lot of our customers when they use a referral program. Content-rich career sites. When we talk about SEO, we've talked about the job boards primarily there, but just we mentioned earlier that Google does have its own job board. So that comes from folks' career sites and the job listings that are on their websites. All of our career sites automatically are pulled into Google Jobs results. So they appear as like a different widget on the Google search results if you're looking for jobs. And that's another place where about 10% of job seekers are starting their search. So that SEO optimized career site that we offer is a really fantastic way to, again, get some other eyeballs for folks that aren't necessarily starting on job boards. And then social media is another good option to get the word out about that job and attract some applicants. 82% of the US population has at least one social media account, and 20% of last year's job seekers started their search on social media. So we talked about 47% on job boards, about 10% on Google. So this is another really big chunk of that group is social media job seekers. So it's a great way to reach people. And if they're not actively searching too, they're just scrolling on Twitter or Facebook, for example, it's a great way to get something in front of them if they're thinking about it, but maybe they haven't started that search yet. And with Hireology, we actually make that super simple with a single click. So we know the job board integration, as soon as you create a job and as long as you make it public, we're going to send that out to those organic job boards. Once you do post that job, you may have seen this as you've been posting over the past few months, but we do offer you that option to boost that job with prospects. So by clicking on Facebook, LinkedIn, you can even email folks if you're like, that could be a lightweight referral if you aren't using Employ Us with us. Those are a couple of really great ways to one click, as long as you're logged into Facebook, or you can just log right in, it'll create a post. You just have to hit publish on it and boom, that's out to your social media network there on both LinkedIn and Facebook. So super easy way, lightweight way for you once you create a job, right in the flow within Hireology to get that information out there. All right, and that's what we've got for today. But just to summarize really quickly, reminder, nearly half of those job applicants are starting their search for work on general job boards. So important to make sure you're getting that organic traffic. It's critical to have a presence on those boards. And in some cases, again, after that 7 days, it might make sense if you need more applicants to consider a paid sponsorship with an Indeed, with a ZipRecruiter. But don't put all of your eggs in that one basket. Referrals, fantastic source of quality applicants. The people you work for are awesome. They probably know awesome people. Social media, super easy to do. And then those specialized job boards, depending on your industry that we have available, are also great ways to find maybe a smaller set of applicants, but folks who work in your industry who have the experience that you need and are going to be quality. And with that, thank you so much. You could have been anywhere in the world right now, but you spent some time with me and with Hireology today. And for that, we really appreciate you. So I know we have one question in the Q&A. I'm going to answer that one from Sarah here, but give everybody a couple of minutes. If there are additional questions, please put them in that chat in that Q&A, and we'll make sure we get through all of them. So Sarah asked, do you track the paid job board success metrics on the dashboard? Yes. So let me go back a couple of slides and at least show you a quick screenshot of what we do there. So so this is showing, we do have one paid source here. So we have our Hireology Smart Post, which is it goes out to a number of different job boards. But we do track the success metrics there on the dashboard, Sarah. So we don't have the exact dollar amount there, but we only have one option. So you'll know, hey, here's the dollar amount and the number of applicants, how many times I bought that. And then you can compare that to the number of applicants, candidates, people you interviewed and hired from that. So you should be able to generally track that all the way through from purchase to hire. And I don't have a screenshot of it here, but for those paid job boards, we have this as kind of the aggregate. So if you've bought Smart Post 10 times, it'll show all of that. But we also have a summary of each individual purchase. So for each job that you purchase a sponsored job board for, you should be able to see, this is when I purchased it, and then here's kind of how that particular sponsorship campaign went for me from a success standpoint. Any other questions today before we let you all enjoy the rest of this beautiful Wednesday? Julie, thank you for spending a little time with us. All right, going once, going twice. Sold. All right, well, we will wrap up for today. Again, appreciate you all spending some time with us. Hopefully this was some helpful information as you try to get your fair share of applicants in the market. If you have any questions, I'm going to share my email in the chat here. If you ever want to talk to somebody on product here at Hirology, you've got my information. Happy to talk about your experience with applicant flow or anything else in the app if you need me. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and thank you all so much.